We're talking about Brett Veach and, Andy Reid and all this stuff. We're going to go to our first concern of the night. Eric, are you going to have time to stick around for the
I'll go for the first. And then I got to go.
All right, sounds good, buddy. All right, so first topic tonight, after lots of speculation in our show, we talked about it last week, Eric Bieniemy is back. He signed a one-year deal to stay as our OC. But we also brought in former OC and quarterback coach Matt Nagy to be our current quarterback coach, keeping continuity for Patrick, which is something that Andy Reid said they wanted to do, was keep continuity for Patrick. But a weird report came out from Josina Anderson that would indicate there might be a bigger shakeup than just coaching changes. She tweeted, quote, "Things in Kansas City are going to be quite interesting to keep an eye on right after the NFL Combine and next season. Matt Nagy's addition will not only prove to be good timing to handle the upcoming allocation of duties, but also very well received by Patrick Mahomes." What does this report mean to you?
I had a conversation with James Hasty. Sorry, Nick, if I'm going, so I could
go ahead.
And James' question asked me about the hire, and he said, "What was the issue going on with EB?" Well, I don't know the inside story to what's going on to EB. We can all speculate as to what we think. And my belief before was I thought that, EB was basically hanging around to be handed the keys to KC. I think he's way too talented to not have been given a job, but I'm not the guy doing the hiring. Would I like to keep him here with our offensive staff? Would love to, just because of what he's developed with Patrick and what he's turned Patrick and his offense into. So I'd love to keep him, but I would also like to see him grow and to become what he's dreamed of, and his passion, is relating to these players and one day becoming a head coach. So Matt Nagy coming in here at this point in time, the things that I've kind of heard lately sends a signal to say that he might become the next head coach. I was thinking that EB would potentially take that job, but from a couple of guys that I've heard, Nagy might be the guy to take over after Reid's departure. And I love Andy Reid, love him to death. I do think he's got a lot on his table to handle, on his plate to handle mentally off the field football with his family, and also mentally with the things that are happening within the team. So I think that's having a big effect on him, and it's probably taking a toll to where it's almost at that point to where he's ready to hang it up. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's quite ready to hang it up, but I agree with you. I mean, you've got, the off the field issues that happened. He's up there in age. He's got a Super Bowl ring. He cemented his place in the Hall of Fame. Now it's a matter of, how can he manage all the things he has to manage between the players, the coaches, the family life. He's a good person on top of all that, but at some point, when the Nagy rumors started, like the day after he was let go in Chicago, you kind of knew that this guy might be a guy who would come back to Kansas City. And I think what's key about this, I agree with you. I think he's probably going to be the head coach in waiting. I think the issue with Eric, regardless of what, happened or didn't happen, with all these things, is that he hasn't really had time to develop relationships in the NFL with coaches, with other teams. And I think that might have been one of the issues in the interview, because when he was with New Orleans, I mean, I kind of heard that he was pretty high up there. I mean, they were really interested in him. And one of the things that I had heard was that maybe he just hasn't developed those relationships. What kind of staff are you going to put together? These are all things he has to learn how to do. And plus, he's always going to be under the shadow of Andy Reid in Kansas City. So at some point, we got to see what Eric, what he can do without Andy Reid, over him or next to him or behind him. It doesn't make a difference. Everybody assumes that Andy's calling the plays and this is Andy's offense, and Eric is just kind of a facilitator of the message. But it isn't like he doesn't have input, and it isn't like he's not part of things. So it'll be interesting to see how Nagy integrates himself, how much control he has. They still got a couple of coaching situations they need to resolve. So I think what Josina meant is those things are going to play out before the start of the new league year.
So, I mean, kind of hearing this, I don't know what she was quite referencing to. This is kind of one of those things like the cliffhanger I was talking about, as far as some of the putting things out here and all, wait and watch. And to be honest with you, Matt coming back here was seemed like the natural thing. He's been under Andy since 2008. He's known him real well. But I think with Matt coming back and Bieniemy being re-signed for another year, I think this, to be honest with you, I'm thinking this is kind of like a toss-up. I don't know who's actually going to be at the helm next year or when Andy, sits down, to be honest with you. That's how I look at it. I think sometimes what you do, where Bieniemy hasn't really had a chance and opportunity. I mean, he's had chances and opportunities. Nobody's really, bid on to him. And I'll say this, during this time combine and whatnot, this is where guys are actually talking. This is where all the coaches are up there, having conversations, eating with each other, talking about the season. What do you think? What do you need? I've been up there a couple of times, and that's all that happens during this time is going and seeing other coaches, GMs, owners of teams. This is the place that you go do it, right? This is the off season. This is where you do it during the combine during this time. But I think when they look at Bieniemy and you say, look, you got a year contract, year. And I think every year is just to say, is somebody else going to bite him? Is somebody else going to take him as being the head coach, right? You're going to get your opportunity. Then it doesn't come. And all of a sudden it's something else. Same thing. Interview doesn't come. Well, I know the Chiefs, they know him real well. And because of the things that was being said, they had to dispel all the rumors. Andy had to come out and say, look, man, all that things that everybody was saying wasn't true either. But, we're glad to have Matt back. And it's all about delegating responsibility. Mm-hmm. So Andy brings him back. And he calls him, I guess he's like the senior offensive coordinator, something like that. He's like a senior something, right? He just gives him his title. And it's just like, okay, kind of an ambiguous title. Like, what is that, right? But that it's going to be, a combination of all three guys getting in together. They just going to have fun. What I'm looking at right now is them having fun in an offensive meeting about putting things together. That's what I'm kind of looking at. Yeah. All the other things is going to work itself out. I don't know what's going to happen with EB, Nagy. Like Nick said, Andy to me doesn't look like he's ready to hang it up no time soon.
Not quite yet.
Yeah, I don't see no indication whatsoever about him doing that at all. And so to him, I think when you delegate the responsibility with Bieniemy and then, of course, Nagy with Patrick, that's even, less stuff for Andy to do. So he's just sitting back like he's going to just enjoy this entire season, this all season. And he's just thinking he's just putting these minds together to get these things done. But I don't
think he's ready to go, though? I mean, like, what is he, one of the top three oldest? Him, Belichick, and my man out in Seattle?
He is, but I said this before, man. What is Andy going to do? He don't play golf like you do. Like,
no other coach is no other coach right now at that age, his age, has faced the things that he's gone through off the field, family wise. And so that's the only reason I say this, because like at his age, the things that your family has gone through, the things that you go through as far as, especially with the whether it's media or social media attention for the failures that we've had in the last couple of years. Like everybody in Chiefs Nation loves Andy Reid. We know that. But you're still taking hits for where you were, at least I thought we were the best team the last 2 years.
No doubt.
Honestly thought we were the best two teams. And we've lost these last 2 years. And so you take all that and add it to what the stress of what's happening off the field with your family, plus you're up there in age, you already got all these accomplishments. You're a shoe-in. Excuse me. You're a shoe-in for the Hall of Fame. So I mean, you might want to go for one more ring, but what else is there for you to accomplish? You're not going to catch Belichick with anything.
No.
Right. And that's a great point. I'm just saying I haven't seen any indication. And to me, I'm looking at it like, for Andy, with all the things you're talking about, he's going through, maybe off the field stuff, that this is his solace. Like being on the field, being around the locker room, being all those things is kind of like his escape from that reality where he's, we know this. I mean, football family is just your family. That's all family right there. And so he has to separate himself from, his family he's been with for this long to say, man, I'm going over here now. And I got to sit down and figure out what I'm going to do. Right. I mean, so I know he'll probably have a little bat phone beside him. Like, hey, they ain't calling the right. Hey, this is Andy. Get in contact with Bieniemy or somebody, right? He might do some things like that. But I get it. Maybe, like I said, this is just that transition when you have two guys who are who, without a doubt, has been a head coach, a guy who's been in talks of being a head coach, to say, man, I'm going to back away from this whole thing, and I'm just going to see how this thing works. I agree with you. That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I feel like as far as, I mean, Reid's been coaching for so long, he's finally got that quarterback. I mean, McNabb was a badass, and he had Vic, I mean, towards the end of his career. But, I mean, he's been searching for so long to finally get Mahomes. You know, he went through A.J. Feely, Kevin Cobb, Mike McMahon, so many of those guys. He's got Mahomes now. I mean, at least give it a few more years, I mean,
age is age, man. When you get up there, you get to – right now, he doesn't have the family time. I guarantee you, JD knows what goes into coaching. You don't get a lot of family time during the season or off season. So when you're at that point in your age, you accomplish so much. And yeah, you love to have something young and as talented as Patrick and what we created with the Chiefs nowadays to look forward to. But, you got some great years ahead of you to enjoy the rest of your life with your family too. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Andy should retire. If he's feeling healthy, mentally and physically, and thinks that he can take on, another 5-10 years, I'm happy for him. That's just a little opinion, a suggestion. Like,
right. No, you know what? And you said something right there about himself. Remember, he had that one.
He had a scare. He had to be taken to the hospital.
So, yeah, if he wins one more, I think he may be out of there.
I think he's done. Yeah, no, if he wins one more, he's done. And I think the other thing too that I tried to warn. After Super Bowl 54, I tried to warn all these people. Listen, I spent 50 years. It could be another 50 years before it happens again. It is hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls. It's hard to win more than one. Well, you know what I'm saying? But, I mean, even with a generational quarterback, I mean, look at the struggles the offense have had and look at the differences of opinions and, some guys not developing the way they should and some free agents mixing and some don't. I mean, it is so hard to sustain a dynasty. I mean, the Cowboys did it. The 49ers did it. The Patriots obviously did it. But, I mean, Brady was, 30, 31? He went 10 years between his Super Bowl. And you can't take it for granted. And that's why I said what I said earlier. With Andy and Brett, I think they've learned some valuable lessons. But I agree with you, Eric. There's a clock. It's ticking. The guy's not going to coach forever. And there has to be somebody to step up. And I think that's why Nagy's here.
Oh, I agree. And another thing that I kind of overlook, I don't say overlook, mental health is a big deal nowadays. And some of us aren't able to share. Some of us are able to come out and share because it helps. I've had my issues in the years, still dealing with some stuff mentally. But, when you have so much of what he's got on his plate, and again, I don't want to make it like I'm pushing Andy out. Right. I do want him to ride off into the sunset. I wish we could ride off and let him in with another Super Bowl. And I'm praying that this is our year. But I pray that for every year. But yeah, I just think that health-wise, whether it's mental or physical, it eats at a person. And at his age, I'm pretty sure he's affected somewhat by it.
How old is Andy? Does anybody know? How old is Andy?
I know him, Pete Carroll, and Belichick are the oldest.
62, 63, somewhere in there, I think.
53.
That's
63.
Yeah. I don't know. That's still kind of young. I guess 65 is like that, So
what? 65 is retirement.
Yeah.
There it is.
Right. And hey, like I said, if you sitting around like as a football coach and you got two capable guys beside you, right? There's calling everything around you. All you have to do is sit back like that and just win Super Bowls. Hopefully that's what he's doing.
We're about to find out.
Right.
I hope so. Well, guys, I got to take off, man. Pleasure. Thanks again, Nick. I'll catch you guys next week.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Okay, brother. All right. Enjoy yourself.
Happy birthday.
Yes, sir.
So I guess my last question on this topic is something that I've been kind of thinking about. So, all right, Nagy was the OC and Bieniemy was the running backs coach when Nagy was the OC. Now Nagy's coming back as the quarterbacks coach, and then this made up position, the senior offensive whatever. now we got Nagy's a former head coach now. He's coming from Chicago. Now you got kind of three guys. And like what you said, Jason, I'm sure they're going to be excited, to go into the room and, make up plays and do all the things that coaches do. But ego, like what we've said in the show, these coaches have egos. So you're going to have, is there too many chefs in the kitchen? I mean, will there be some kind of, little bit of a riff there with, when this guy wants to talk about this play, this one wants to call this play. I mean, I don't know. Is that something that you could see happening to too many chefs in the kitchen kind of thing?
I don't think so. And for the simple fact, because they all worked together before. And so once you've had a rapport with guys, it's a lot easier to communicate. You already know what guys are thinking. And I think this is one thing about this team with Andy, Bieniemy and Nagy having the same like-mindedness. I mean, they really are offensively. So I don't think it was going to be a whole lot of pushback. And especially, how things work as far as communication, during the season. They're going to start all of this right now. And so when I'm talking about going in and just putting their hands, they all chefs, top chefs, putting their hands in and they dishing something up, right? And I guarantee, like every chef, they're going to like what another chef is cooking. Oh, I like that. Right. Yeah. Dial it up, right? Put that one in there. And so if somebody has to sprinkle a little bit more spice and some salt on, hey, go ahead and do it. And I think they all can be on the same page. And I think when Nagy was here the first time, he had to coordinate with Childress. So this ain't nothing new for him, doing something like that. And so with EB and Andy, it's been a collaborative effort all along. And we know Andy likes calling plays. He's been doing that since he's been in Philadelphia, just having that type of control. Mm-hmm. And so I think these guys understand it. I think that's the reason EB is back. Like I said, that's the guy that that's the guy that you like. Now you're coming in. And because we had to understand how positive that is just for Patrick, right? Him having another quarterback, that mindset of just sitting down with him, where I think EB has, EB's a very tough attitude. And he look, I know EB, he ain't going to play with guys. He's going to be former player. He's going to be in them. What's up? But how'd you ain't doing this? And sometimes, maybe he's like, hey man, be easy on him. Patrick's kind of, soft talker, he's not really one of those in your face Tom Brady guys, but we want to get the best out of him. And I think, Nagy's got to do it.
I think one thing with Nagy too is you got to remember, look at what he did with Alex Smith. I mean, there wasn't a coach in the NFL that could make Alex Smith do the things that Nagy showed him how to do and taught him, being a former quarterback. Right. He was with Patrick for his first year. So they were like, Patrick was in the room and he was constantly talking. And obviously Patrick signed off on, bringing Nagy back. But I think the role between the three of them, I think if the Chiefs start to focus on the running game again, which I think something they're going to have to do, they obviously left a lot of points and a lot of yardage on the table. Junk the stats, forget about forget about throwing for 5,000 yards and 60 touchdowns. Let's just win the game. And if teams are going to now do the Bengals defense, you know what? Then the Chiefs are going to run it down their throats. So what Eric is, I don't think there's any better running backs coach or a guy who gets in the face of the running backs, who develops running backs. Look what he did with Kareem Hunt. I mean, out of nowhere, this kid comes in and, has an amazing rookie season. But I think they'll all have their roles. I think they'll all work together. And basically Nagy has taken the Brad Childress role to some degree with an eye on the future. And remember his, Brett Veach, those guys were quarterback and running back on the same team, and they're very close. And I think if there is going to be movement, to the time when Andy decides to step down, I think we'll look back at this time and Brett Veach is probably getting a little bit more involved in that aspect of it. I think Andy still is going to have the say, but, reading between the tea leaves, looking at how this worked, the length of time it took for the Chiefs to decide to bring Eric back, all these things, waiting on if Matt was going to come or not going to come, using Africa on a safari kind of thing, whatever. I believe that, we're moving toward the direction where the Chiefs are looking, okay, what's going to happen to the organization 2-3 years down the road, because they're still going to have Patrick. So if Matt can really bond with Patrick over the next couple of years, maybe take over 3 in the third year, then they're going to have that relationship going in, and you're not going to see a lag. Versus bringing in a guy like Harbaugh or, somebody else who doesn't know the system, doesn't know the player, doesn't know the quarterback. So I think this is Brett Veach saying, you know what, we got to look to the future, and he's not going to coach forever. And in the meantime, this guy can help fix the offense.
Yeah.
I agree. And what you said, Veach and Nagy played in college at Delaware together. This week, the NCAA digital team actually ranked the top 5 Delaware football players of all time. And I think Nagy was number 2, number 3 on that list.
Yeah.
I guess my last thing on this topic, I just hope that there isn't if these two guys are the 2 potential candidates to replace Andy Reid, I hope that's not the elephant in the room where these 2 guys are jockeying for position to be that next guy. I just hope
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think they really, they want EB to be successful. And if he's not there at the Kansas City, they want him to have his own thing. And like I said, when this order comes out, I don't know, right? We had to see, but I
opening
think
day we're going to find out.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.